and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is a man who is having some side effects for his booster shot. It's Logan Stone.
My side effects are aplenty today, but I'm sure we'll get into that later on. I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to be, I guess is...
Which one, aplenty or side effect? Which word don't you understand?
I don't understand aplenty very well.
It means
it means aplenty, duh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the official definition? In abundance. Do you need an
Yeah.
abundance? Do you need abundance broken down?
Can I have the origin of that word, please?
Yes, from England.
England. Is it really?
I have no idea. I'm thinking it's English, right? I'm thinking it has to be.
Well, yeah, Jordan, but everything comes from Latin.
Not everything does.
Everything. Name one language that. Okay, never mind. Don't. Never mind. That's a bad idea. Let's don't do that. Welcome to Stateside Soccer Show.
Look it up. We have an abundance of news to talk about.
It's aplenty.
Oh, you know what? It is from mid-14th century French, and it comes from the Latin word abundantia.
All right, I like that version better. I think we should start using that word.
I have an abundantia
of news and stuff to throw at you.
Butchering the way to say it too, but oh well.
I'm sure that the Montreal fans can correct us if we're.
That's true.
Butchering it.
That's true. They could. But yeah, so we have an abundance of stuff to talk about here today, so we're going to get into it here. We have the Revs NYCFC game to talk about, which was an instant classic. We Philly versus NYCFC, which was not an instant classic. And we have Portland versus to talk about as well, and preview MLS Cup, which is this Saturday at 3 p.m. on ABC. Hopefully they have, higher quality camera for MLS Cup. That's something we might touch on as well here.
Our sources can confirm that was an iPhone 6 that was being used to film that game.
My sources confirm that Bob Chapek is cheap. Probably part of the reason behind it. But anyway, we are getting into. Let's start with some news before we get into the games, though. We have American coach Jesse Marsch out at RB Leipzig after 4 months in charge. A multitude of reasons about this. Nagelsmann had kind of taken the club away from the Red Bull system that they were usually using, that Jesse was using at Salzburg, and that they try to use at all their clubs, the one he ran in New York and all that kind of stuff. He kind of led them down a different path. The players want to continue playing down that path. Jesse trying to revert them back to the Red Bull mentality. Loss of some players, some COVID issues near the end there. I think Jesse was in isolation for the last 2 weeks also. He didn't even get a chance to coach those last few games. And, with a squad that should still be probably higher than 8th, and it ends up where he's going to get let go after 4 months. Harsh on him a little bit, but also he needed to adjust. This is what we kind of always talk about, right? Is that I understand when managers have a system, but if that system doesn't fit the players you have, you got to make an adjustment. And I think that's something Jesse didn't really do. For all the people that say, okay, fire Greg Berhalter and let's get Jesse Marsch in for 2022, to me, that doesn't really make any sense. Greg Berhalter has won 2 trophies this summer. We're in a good spot for qualifying. We just beat Mexico at home. And Jesse just didn't do the job he was supposed to do in Germany. So I feel like it'd be like rewarding a failure, kind of like a Chris Armas to Manchester United.
Or if you're, Luchi Gonzalez and you're, I don't know, it seems like we're in this state of like, some coaches are put higher up
Carousel.
on the pedestal. Yeah, but like on like it's a carousel of higher pedestals. It's almost a matter of like, okay, you're at a top league, or if you're not doing well initially. I mean, if you look at Jesse Marsch's record at Leipzig, 8 wins, 4 draws, and 9 losses. 157 days in charge. At Salzburg, Jordan, he was 64, 13 draws, and 17 losses, which is phenomenal for that league. And I think that, again, it's just almost like the Americans still have kind of that American tag next to him. And people look at it and go, well, he is an American coach. So if he can't, perform well, he's never going to be able to perform well. And it was a shell of a team that they gave him. But if you fail, you go up. If you are successful, then you drop tremendously. And now I've been hearing, Jesse Marsch being linked to like the LA team here in LAFC, and I think
he's not coming back. He's not.
No, and that's why it's funny when people keep tweeting that. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that he takes that step back over to the United States, because if he comes back over here, he's not going back.
Right. And also, apparently, he's linked to another position to sit with Chris Armas and Ralph Rangnick at Manchester United. So he might also become an assistant there. I know a lot of Manchester United fans were happy he got fired because they wanted him as an assistant and then take over the role, which I thought was funny. Like take over for Rangnick afterwards.
When he goes up.
Yeah,
I threw that out there. Okay, so if you go back and listen to Stoppage Time Soccer Show, you guys can go back there and laugh at me all you want. But if that becomes a thing, could you imagine if you got fired from RB Leipzig and you were now handed the job of Manchester United, and he could be the guy that would bring him back to glory? It would just be like the best thing for a U.S. men's national team program and U.S. academy and soccer program over here. It would just benefit us all. So I'm okay with it if he wants.
It would, but I don't think he would ever actually get time over there. They gave the most time that they could to Ole, and I think after that they're like, okay, no more time for anybody. Is what I feel like at this point.
I've heard Ole's interested in the LAFC job. My sources can't confirm that, but I'm gonna throw that out there.
Could you imagine?
No, he would get eaten alive in LA.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's interesting. We'll see. I mean, look, he was in 8th place. I think he could probably do a mid-table Bundesliga team, really work his way back up.
Yeah.
And, I do think maybe it was a little too early for him to go to a club such. And apparently, according, he even said after like match week 7, I think, that he went to the board and he said, I may not be the right fit for this team. And he said it again around week 10 or 11. So he got fired match week 14. So, I think he kind of knew it wasn't working. I think the players didn't want to go back to an older system. They were happy with the way they were playing before. And just no, adjustment. And, that's what happens. Let's talk this new ball.
Me Blazer.
I'm going to share the screen here for the viewers, but if you're listening, we're going to try our best to describe what this ball looks like. There it is. It's got like a flower design to it. Oh, I should have knew you were going to like this thing because you like that Paisley Manchester City kit.
Do you know what the flowers represent, Jordan?
No, I didn't read any sort of explanation. If they have an explanation,
fill you in?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Incorporating, this is from MLS.com, and I just heard the Extra Time guys talk about it. Weeby's a big fan, and I usually watch Weeby.
Yeah, I saw.
So incorporating the national flowers of the United States, which is the rose. I had no idea it was the rose. And Canada, the bunchberry, as well as colors representing the other homelands of MLS players. The new official match ball is a symbol of the league's extraordinary diversity. 860 players of MLS hailing from 79 different countries, and highlights a sense of unity, belonging within the soccer communities and the globe. It's now available for purchase at adidas.com, soccer.com, and your Dick's Sporting Goods locations. So if you want that ball. And then Jordan, you can have your say about it, because I know we're on different sides of this one, so this will be kind of a good one for the listeners, I guess. What don't you like about it?
The flowers, the weird pattern of like a hashtag symbol. I don't even know what that is. It looks weird. Part of it's white, part of it's color. Just give me a regular ball. I mean, how hard is it?
All right, so my argument is you're not going to be able to see it on TV, right? You can barely see what the ball is now. I don't think anybody knows what it is now.
So that's part of the argument against it right now. It's pointless. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between this and last year's ball while it's just rolling on the grass, especially with ESPN's cameras. So to me, I'm like, what's the point? I get they're trying to be like weird and like sell a ball or whatever, but God, if this is what Adidas comes out with for like the World Cup next year, I'm gonna lose it.
Okay, so Adidas, I agree with. I don't usually agree with Adidas and the way that they've designed things. I will say one thing, Jordan. I do hope it's not an indication for kits because too many of these kits with flowers on them, I'm not sure it's going to go well. So I am hoping they stay away from giving the paisley stuff for the kits. So I mean, I don't really know as far as like the ball's concerned. I like it. I think that it's great to recognize diversity in the game and the community. And honestly, what other way could you really do it to make it, I mean, I guess you could make something where you make a flag or something that symbolizes it and have it fly in MLS stadiums. But I don't. It's a symbolic gesture. It's a nice gesture to the 860 players in this league, and we keep growing. As far as countries we've added, I think we're going to eventually get up to 80, 90, which will be even more impressive as time goes on. But I like it. I think it's pretty. I think it's really cool. I do think it's weird that we are the rose for the national flower. Like, I can't even think of where the roses are grown that this would be like. I mean, if I'm thinking United States, for some reason I think sunflowers, but not necessarily roses.
I don't know. I mean, we never mind.
The extra time guys, though, did say that it was clearly an indication and a sign that, because this is going to be used in the final coming up.
Oh, great.
That this is like a sign that Portland's going to win it.
Is it Rose City?
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. Okay, then we're definitely not seeing it on Saturday because that game is on ABC. So we're not seeing this thing clear. Yeah, I don't know. Look.
I'm gonna buy you the damn ball, Jordan.
I'll keep it then. I mean, that would be the ball I use outside all the time. But when it comes to it, I think a lot of times with this stuff and crests and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
when they come out with something, they say, okay, now what can we make this symbolize? I don't think they're sitting there like, we want unity, so let's get some flowers. Like, I think they make it and they're like, well, this could be the unity of what's our flower? Rose? Oh yeah, this one. That's definitely the unity of the clubs and how many we have. Like, I don't think it starts off that way.
I guess you could have like had like a fusion of the flags would be more of I guess a symbolic.
I got a really good design idea. Are you ready? Hold on. You just keep talking while I look for it. Okay.
Okay. No, but I don't know. Like, I think when you're looking at ball, it's all relative. Just because I think that it is a symbolic thing in the game. It's obviously the ball they're using to play the game, but it's also symbolic because no matter where you go in the United States and the world, the ball is always the same. So kind of sprinkling in a little bit of diversity, because I guarantee if you look at the last couple of soccer balls in the league, I mean, they just look kind of bland. I would say that they've got like some kind of traditional color scheme that they go with. So like I'm looking at the 2021 ball, and it's kind of like orange, blue. It's got like the United States flag and it's got the Canadian flag in it. So it's kind of got that same idea. It seems like whenever you have these match balls that they have the symbolic nature of like, we have Canadian teams, we have US teams, so let's kind of try to bring in certain aspects of that. I'm waiting for next year for like the national dish for each country, so it's like a pizza ball or something. I don't know what it'll be, but it just seems like it's very generic when they stick away from this, because I've seen a lot of MLS balls. Like my neighbor was always a fan of MLS, And he was a Union fan, Jordan, growing up. And
Was the neighbor me?
No, it wasn't you, but he did grow up, and we had they had the MLS ball, and I think it was back when it was like the black and white, like normal soccer ball that you would normally see, and it was MLS, and I always thought it was weird that the ball was black and white. But
all right, so I got some design ideas. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Design idea number 1. People listening, it's just the black and white panel ball, just a regular soccer ball. How about that? Design number 2. This 2010 Jubilani MLS ball is beautiful, by the way. They used the Jubilani in the 2010 South Africa World Cup. MLS had it with blue and green because that's what the logo used to have. Now it would be like red and white, I guess. But just something simple like that. I don't need roses. I don't need the next side dish of each state. I don't need each state's favorite candy bar. I just want just something I'm going to kick around.
Hey, a poutine soccer ball would be pretty interesting. I mean, you're not going to throw down some Skyline chili soccer. That's it. Jordan, you're brilliant. We could come up with when you're playing in away cities, you have to play with their dish. So it's in Philly, you got to play with the cheesesteak ball.
Oh my God. Oh my!
Orlando, I don't even know. I think it'd be like a Mickey pretzel or a churro.
Yeah, seriously, what does Orlando have that's not Disney related?
I was gonna say, I mean, we got a lot of Brazilian restaurants because of the flair that we have here. So I guess it'd be a Brazilian dish, but I don't know.
If only Maryland had a team, that would be crab cakes.
The crabs,
crab cake ball or a crab ball. That'd be
you
nice.
wouldn't want the crabs on the ball.
It's a PG show, Logan. All right, we're moving on.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Moving on from this, we're going to the MLS Next unveiling. MLS Next Pro. This is just an awful name for a league. I'm sorry.
Did you see the logos?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even read it.
It's like I read somewhere, somebody tweeted it was like somebody had given the third grader the font book, and he was going through it just deciding which one looked best.
Especially there's there was a graphic somebody shared online where it was there are three different fonts for the number 2 in this graphic. It's like a normal 2, then there's a slanted 2, then there's this weird
it slants the other way.
Yeah. All right. So MLS Next is what the academies are right now. MLS Next Pro is the professional league that is going to have pretty much the teams that were in USL, the 2 teams, and one professional team in Rochester owned by Jamie Vardy. That's one independent team. There. So let's list the teams here. Okay, Chicago, Cincinnati, Colorado, Columbus, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Miami, Minnesota, New England, New York City, Orlando, Philadelphia, Portland, Salt Lake, San Jose, Seattle, St. Louis, Toronto, Vancouver, and Rochester, New York. That's the Rochester Rhinos that Vardy made boring by just calling it Rochester, New York City FC or whatever he did. 24 leagues, 24 league games per club. 8 teams will make a playoff. Adidas will serve as the first corporate sponsor. They'll have Charles Outcheck as president of the league. I'm not really familiar with him. Ali Curtis, who left Toronto, by the way, is becoming the senior vice president of the competition. So that's interesting. But league starts March 2022. And joining in 2023, we're getting 8 more MLS affiliated teams: Atlanta, Austin, Charlotte, DC, LA, LAFC, Nashville, and New York Red Bulls. I'm actually surprised the Red Bulls are taking so long to get over because they usually have a really good academy. When it comes to what I think is the best part about this, starting in 2022, what name sticks out to you, Logan, as having a team in MLS Next Pro for 2022?
I mean, initially FC Dallas comes to mind, only because they're known for having quite the academy. So I mean, I feel like that's definitely a team that you got to watch as far as a team coming through. I don't know. That's the one that initially caught me. Is that the one you were thinking of? No.
No, the one I'm thinking about is a team that hasn't even played an MLS game, St. Louis City.
Yeah. That would, yeah.
They're not coming in until what, 2023, 2024?
Yeah, 2023, I believe.
Yeah, because next year is Charlotte, so 2023. They're going to have a nice head start. And St. Louis is a hotbed for soccer. They already have an academy, I think, too, right now. So they're going to be setting themselves up. If I'm looking at it, I'm looking at how St. Louis is coming into MLS, and I say
stacked.
They're coming in the right way.
Yeah.
Start getting those youth products, because by the time that they even see the field in 2 years or a year and a half, they'll be able to probably have some youth players on the team, or at least be really starting to see them through within the next year or two after they join, and kind of get a head start with it. And having these players, these youth players of theirs, playing against youth players in other MLS teams before teams that are in MLS already are getting in there. That's what I find so interesting about it. And what I really like about them doing it, they're joining before DC, Austin, Atlanta, both LA teams, Nashville, and Red Bulls.
Yeah. That one shocked me. I mean, it does. It seemed, I saw a lot of opinions going around on Twitter that said that the teams that are missing out on this initial couple of years might put them behind the 8 ball for a while, just because they're not developing the talent that you need. Because I think the LA teams and the Atlanta team think that they can just build based off of their DP and their young status, and they can go in and buy these guys because they're a big market. However, if you're looking at these teams, I mean, Jordan, it goes all the way down to 13U. So you can, if you go on MLS's website right now, you can follow the 13U standings. You can see their schedules. You can go see games they're going to play at some of the stadiums. I know with Orlando, they use ESPN, and they'll use the Osceola fairgrounds down here by us. So they'll use these different. And I've got kids that will go to my school that know kids that go on the academy teams, and we've had kids try out for the academy teams for Orlando City. So it'll be, I don't know, it's interesting. And I like, if you go through and read the article, there's one called MLS Next Fest, which is like this new festival that's coming up. I guess it's on, I want to say it's already started, maybe, or maybe it's, hold on. It says, I was reading that earlier and then I lost it. Yeah, Friday, December 3rd through December 7th, Tuesday, there's an event that's going on that will feature over 300 of the top youth teams across the United States and Canada. So, they've got a lot of youth academy players out there. It's going to build a game from the ground up, I think, around here, which is huge. I mean, it's going to be a moneymaker for a lot of these clubs, because they'll transfer out the youth, but some of it, like Dallas does, but it'll also make the league better, I think. And our U.S. men's national team better.
Exactly. This is all good for that. And what I like about it too is getting these teams out of USL.
Yeah.
In the sense of, here's how the dream scenario works for me, okay? And I'm not sure if this is how it's going to go. But you have them starting the academies. They go to MLS Next Pro. And then, of course, most people say, as it looks on the chart, you go to MLS. But what if we still loan out players that have done better in MLS Next Pro, but they're not ready for MLS yet, and you loan them to USL? The Union loaned out Cole Turner, who's from Harford County, same as me, in Maryland. And he, went to, I forget what team it was. He went somewhere over in USL, and I'm not sure if he even really played that much, but just something different. Because my main worry about them leaving the USL is the fact of, are these players going to be ready for MLS by only playing against other prospects? When you look at it like baseball, when they're in AAA, they're also playing against people that have gone to the majors and have come back, or people that have been to the majors for a while, but now are starting to slow down and can't make it anymore. Like when, Felix Hernandez was having minor league deals after he was an ace pitcher for the Mariners. they're still facing good stuff, but they're not just facing prospects that have no control. And that's what I worry about if we go at MLS Next. If all they do is do prospects versus prospects, they may not be able to like hit the speed when they actually see like a quote unquote 99 mile an hour fastball. You know, when they go up there and they get burnt by like a Tejan Buchanan, and they're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this, you know, on my first day. That's where, so if it'd be nice if they go MLS Next Pro, strong people maybe go over to USL and get some, like a year loan. And then they say, you know what, we're ready to bring you into the main club now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too to see what it does to the collegiate level, because something like this has always been an issue at the collegiate level sports in the athletics and college. I think men's college soccer is one of the worst as far as money that revenue that brings in, and also just kind of the broadcast deals that it has. It's usually just on ESPN Plus or one of the ACC network or NC, some of the NCAA networks that they have across the globe. But I think it will be interesting because it seems like it's headed in the right direction as far as like quite possibly the United States is building, I wouldn't say like a tier system like it is in England, just because I don't think that'll ever work here. But I do think that it's starting to get closer to something like that, where you're having these feeder teams kind of feed into these bigger clubs that are going to, make them better, and it makes our talent better. It will, I think, it'll infuse money into it too when you've got these teams attached to it. I think that's what USL struggled with, was financially they just couldn't become stable enough to keep their feet on the ground. Whereas now they're tied to these big MLS clubs, and these big MLS clubs have, some of them have billion-dollar owners, million-dollar owners that USL owners only dream of. So it's a big step forward, I think, as far as getting this on the ground. And now it'll be interesting to see who gets the broadcast rights to it.
I don't think it'll be big broadcast rights. I
don't think so.
Maybe like a YouTube or ESPN Plus, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I also would like to not have, and this is probably asking too much here, I would like for them not to all be named blank club number 2.
Union 2.
Union used to be called Bethlehem Steel. That was fun. FC Dallas 2. Seattle Sounders 2. Like, I want some creativity. Imagine if all the minor league teams for baseball were like Orioles 1, Orioles 2, Orioles 3. Like or just Orioles A, Orioles AA. At least come up with something that maybe fits the theme. Like if it's Union, maybe there is, I don't know, where they somehow tie in Philadelphia, like Sons of Liberty or something. I don't know. Sons of
kind of fun,
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, something where you have
the Orlando Cubs.
Yeah. The Orlando Simbas or something. Something where it adds something to it. Like the way that Orlando Pride for the NWSL fits in with the Lion theme. Like I want stuff more like that than just Union 2.
Yeah.
It's so boring.
The Baby Dukes.
Because what makes you want to go see a Union 2 game if you're a casual fan? You're like, well, they're not as good as Union 1, right?
Right.
So why would I go see it? But if it's named something else, you're like, oh, okay, it's like their minor league team, whatever. Like, I don't know. You might be able to get more people that buy into the brand and start wearing the hats or the clothing of like, oh, that Union MLS Next Pro team crest is awesome. It's not that awesome when it's just a snake with a 2 next to it instead. That can help. I mean, I see people wearing minor league baseball stuff because they have silly brands, like the Montgomery Biscuits, and like stuff that gets people talking or gets people like, oh, that's a cool logo, let me wear that, than just, oh, it's our same logo with the 2 in the background. So that's my hope for it. Especially when we have, they also said more independent teams will be coming in 2023 as well. So we'll see how that goes. All right, you ready to get into the actual games?
Oh, there were games. Okay. Yeah, let's get into those.
So New England versus NYCFC. Buxa scored. First it was Rodriguez scoring 3 minutes in for NYCFC. and Buxa equalizing in the 9th minute, and that game got off to a hot start. And it about stayed that way until we went extra time, and Castellano scored in the 109th minute before getting himself a second yellow and getting thrown off the pitch in the 113th. And then Tajon Buchanan equalizing in the 118th, and then going to penalties with NYCFC triumphing over New England Revolution. Now, you told me this was your favorite game to watch as a casual for MLS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and jumping into it full-fledged this year as the first time around, getting to see MLS Cup and what it's all about. I think that this one was like the epitome of what MLS was. It's like MLS After Dark met a beautiful game of soccer, and it was really nice to watch. I thought it had everything. I thought that New England, they looked rusty at first, but as the game kind of settled in, they did start to kind of look like their old selves as they did in the regular season. There were times where, I guess, chances that they created, they couldn't put them home. The last 10 minutes after Castellanos gets sent off was the most heart-wrenching, and I wasn't even a fan of either of the teams. I mean, it was so hard to why I was nervous, and I didn't know what I was nervous for. I mean, I didn't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting a New England win at that point. After they scored again, I was like, they could win this game very well and kind of set themselves up to go forward at the momentum that they had. There were moments where I thought that New York were going to pull ahead even more, but then kind of got stymied a little bit in the attack. And then when Castellanos sent off, it just didn't seem like it was likely that they win. And then all of a sudden it goes to PKs. And then I thought, as far as PKs were concerned, I actually felt more confident for NYCFC for some reason, even though they didn't have Castellanos. I don't know. It just felt like something was in the water that we have been all over about Matt Turner being the best goalkeeper in MLS, but he was rusty. There hasn't been, that opportunity to stand in goal and really create chances for yourself, because New York City really had a hard time putting shots on goals. So Turner's just kind of sitting back there. It's cold out. It's, it's not the best of conditions. And then you go up against Sean Johnson, who's arguably one of the best keepers in MLS as well. So it had the perfect setup for everything. It had PKs. Tajon Buchanan, I thought, played extremely well. And then go figure, he scores as he's marching his way out of New England and on to better things. But it just had everything to me. Bruce Arena looked absolutely furious, as Bruce often does. He shows a lot of emotion on the sideline. Very Bill Belichick-esque, as he's just very disgruntled as he's walking off the pitch for the final time in a season that was historic for the Revs, and now becomes even more historic for the Pigeons, man. It was great. It was like the beautiful storyline that I wanted.
And it was everything every Union fan wanted, to host the next game, to have Castellanos out. And you're thinking, Union have a chance to do this. But then the COVID outbreak happens. But before we get there, Portland beat RSL. Not much to really talk about there, I don't think. I mean, RSL just didn't really look up to it.
I did want to say one thing. Portland seems to just find ways, and I know the extra time guys were talking about it, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it because you hadn't listened to that episode yet. But they were talking about the fact that there's a reason why Seattle and Portland, I think it was 7 out of the last 8 MLS Cup finals, have included a team from the Cascadia. And I think it speaks volumes to their ownership and their ability to build teams, because there are teams around there that have the resources that they have. They just don't build it correctly. So trying to find the blueprint that Seattle and Portland can have a really kind of just tough year where they finish first or fifth, and they still make this huge run in the playoffs, or whatever it might be. They've got these different circumstances where they just make runs. It's amazing to think that here we are sitting here on the final day, getting ready to happen in MLS, and Portland sitting there, pretty much the favorites to win MLS Cup.
Yeah, it's I'm not surprised with Portland. Yeah. Honestly, we had them, I just showed this on the screen. We had them as the number 1 team on both of our predictions with Supporter Shield winners. That part didn't farther than the Supporter Shield winner. They're in MLS Cup final. I posted on Twitter after the game, and like you said, the last 7 Western Conference finals, winners have been a team that is from Cascadia, and that's not including Vancouver. So it's really just Seattle and Portland carrying this weight of it being like Seattle, Portland. So it was like Seattle, Portland. No, it's Portland, Seattle, Portland, Seattle, Portland. Okay, I just
wait till Vancouver gets their name in the
next year.
Next year, Vancouver joins the
So
big
we have
three.
to know when we're making our predictions. Okay, is it going to be Seattle or Portland that get to the final this year?
Write that down.
And it really is just dominance. And when you don't even look at it like that, okay, when you don't even look at it like that, and you look at those 7, but then you look at MLS's back final, and you have Portland in that, and they win there as well. And it's just the dominance of those two teams. And when you look at when Seattle first entered the league and they won like 4 straight US Open Cups, like what those two teams have done for this league and bringing in players back like Clint Dempsey, Obafemi Martins, bringing in a Nicholas Ladero or a Diego Chara, Valeri. Like these players come to MLS in those two teams, and they seem to stay a while. And they seem to, especially Portland. Portland's been able to keep that squad together for a while. We've talked about it in the preseason. Is this the last year that they can kind of do it with this squad? And the answer from Sam was yes. And we now know Diego Valeri, this is his last ride. Are they going to have that moment where he gets to lift a second MLS Cup and a 3rd trophy overall if you include that MLS is back? And, Giovanni Savarese, who has made cup finals at like every job he's been at. New York Cosmos, he was always in the final. Here, he's been getting the finals. They lost the one against Atlanta in 2018. They win the MLS's back last year, and now they're in a final here. Caleb Porter won the MLS Cup in 2015. It's, this just trajectory that I think that they're on that I think is something to admire. Is just if I'm a team entering the league, I'm looking at how Seattle and Portland have built their team. If I have money. If I don't have money, I'm looking at how Philly built their team because they don't have any money.
Yeah.
And they might lose their coach because of the no money because he's probably going to get offered a boatload from Cincinnati. And he's friends with Albright, so there is a chance that happens still.
And Portland did this without Eric Williamson for pretty much the whole season. And you had Valeri, who was mostly non-existent, and right? Blanco might not play an MLS Cup final, depending on how the hamstring does. So, I mean, it just everything about this team, man. The park they play in, the city they built, the fan base they built, in a league that was just without them in Seattle, we don't have an MLS. I don't think. I think without
we have it.
It would just not be as entertaining. I don't think,
and I don't think it would have grown as much as it has. Those two teams have really put it on the map in the Northwest. And the good thing is those teams already existed. They were teams that were in other leagues. They had been around since the 70s. They have this rivalry since the 70s. It's something that has grown organically. It wasn't like a forced rivalry that MLS tries to force when they do Columbus is rivals with Chicago. No, not really. It's an organic rivalry because the clubs have so much history in Vancouver as well. That whole Cascadia Cup has been around since the 70s. And those teams are not afraid of their names, right? We haven't had a Montreal change like Montreal. Montreal Impact has been around a while. For some reason, they're ashamed of their name. Seattle and Portland and to a lesser extent Vancouver know that the name doesn't really matter. They can become a global brand by just being good. And that's what those two teams have done. You have Timber Joey, that's probably the best thing about Portland hosting this game. And that thank God it is not at New York Yankee Stadium.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Thank God. I know people wanted it for the chaos, but I want to be able to watch an entertaining, fun MLS Cup. I do not want to be on this weird camera angle looking at where third base is while we're trying to watch a soccer game.
It's a drive deep down. Castellanos with a drive
Yes.
into left field, and I'm really sorry for having to play this game in a baseball stadium, but it's just not a choice that we can really make. Sorry, my cats are back here fighting. They don't like the baseball field either. But no, Jordan. So here's a fun fact: 8-2 home teams in the last 10 MLS Cup finals. Jordan, do you know the only two teams to win on the road in MLS? Speaking of the Cascadian teams. It's a big hit.
Well, Portland won in Columbus in 2015, and in 2016, Seattle won in Toronto without having a shot on goal.
Yeah,
Stefan Fry standing on his head to like 16 shots and having to get them to penalties, and Seattle winning on penalties. I knew that without you having to even give me the hint. So thank you.
Jordan, I think you and I should fly out to the MLS. What is Saturday? Let's do it. Yeah. We're both vaccinated.
You know what? I just won the lottery. I think I can.
Flights are cheap, right? They're like $500 to the
I'm gonna check.
Oh, they're at least $500. I think somebody said it was $600 from DC, so I can't imagine it's any better for you. Now I think that was Cheyenne over at Between Clean Sheets that does the DC stuff. She said that it was like $600 to fly over there. Not to mention how much the tickets would be at Providence.
Oh, yeah, they're probably already sold out.
Bonkers. I want to check that, actually.
I don't know when they went on sale, but they're probably sold out.
I think they went on sale today.
All right, for one way, I can get to Portland for $198, but that's Southwest want-to-get-away deal, I think. So it may not be the best. May not have the time that I need it. If I was to do this, and it's like one something.
Okay. If there are any Portland fans out there that are listening to this on December 7th, Tuesday, your tickets go on sale over there for Providence Park at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, Jordan. So if we want to get some tickets to go.
Yeah. Let's see. It's about $232 for BWI to Portland.
That's not bad at all.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't know what that airline is though, so I'm a little worried about that.
What is it again? What's the airline?
I don't know what the airline is. It looks like an F, like a green F.
Oh, Frontier.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's a decent. I mean, it's the economy flight, but yeah, they're better than Spirit Airlines. So okay, Jordan, I can meet you out there for $175.
Not bad.
We're going. Let's go.
Okay. Live show at there.
Right.
But yeah, so Portland. I'll tell you, I'll be wearing my Portland kit on Saturday. So let's get to the Philadelphia Union NYCFC. About Saturday, we started getting to the point of, sounds like a lot of Union players are going to be out for this game, and it got real worrying. And that's exactly what happened. People, on Friday trying to find out who was training because they couldn't train on Friday. Or they couldn't train on Thursday. They could train on Friday, something like that. And, it got to the point of 11 players being out. Kevin Kincaid of Crossing Broad on crossingbroad.com. They're a Philadelphia blog. It sounds like 11 players were forced into health and safety protocol, were unavailable, and included 75% of their defense and their goalkeeper. He talked to a few stories and figured out that there's a few things that led to this. There were staffers who also tested positive. One of the possible sources is a player's significant other. A second player was in contact with a family member who traveled from overseas to the U.S. And it seems like a lot of people are really putting stock in the Olivier Mbazio thing, but that doesn't seem to really make any sense because
it doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up timeline-wise for when that would have happened because he missed the first two games of the playoffs. He was back for this game. So I guess technically he could have, but they came back on the 20th. I think they would have already have probably been testing positive and would have missed the Nashville game, I think. So it's a little tough to swallow at this point with how good of a run that they were having, and the penalties against Nashville, and then having the chance to have a game at home without Castellanos on NYCFC. It really felt like it was building to something. I think if something like this happened, and there's nothing to really even blame it on. It's just bad luck when you look at it this way. I do think going forward, the protocols are going to have to change, right? Like, if we're going to keep talking about a new normal or that COVID isn't going away,
yeah, you got to do a better job.
Then we need to start changing some of this stuff. If they are vaccinated, which the union are 100% vaccinated, if they're vaccinated, if they're asymptomatic, at that point, it's on the other team for not being vaccinated. I don't know. I feel like we're getting punished for being fully vaccinated, while it's like, well, you can't play against them because maybe they're not. Like, and that you could spread it and get it even worse. And people can pass it while they are vaccinated. My point being is the effects are usually lessened due to the vaccination. So there wouldn't really be as much of a significant sickness. I don't know. I think going forward, we got to start looking at, in all of the sports, okay, if they're vaccinated, we're going to have to start coming up with some different rules, because, unfortunately, fortunately, the vaccine is available for really right now, whoever wants it. So if at that point they're not taking it, they're probably not ever going to take it. And at this point, the leagues themselves, like NBA, NFL, I think MLS, MLB, they're like 90-some% vaccinated. The protocols are going to have to change. We can't, like, if it's not going away, there's going to be a new variant. We just learned about Omicron. If there's going to be a new variant next year as well, then things are going to have to be reassessed on what it looks like next year. While I don't think the Mbazio thing really affected it, there is the issue right now with the pandemic and having the FIFA calendar having the breaks, and I'm fine with that. They have to get these qualifiers in. But maybe not scheduling where as soon as the qualifiers are over, it's playoff time. That's what I think really stretches, because, these players were going to like South Africa, which is, huge with the Omicron variant right now. And, having all of that stuff, and like the thought of, well, they're not going to bring it back. Well, why wouldn't they bring it back? So then you're missing some of your key players for playoff games. Seattle had some of the same problems with some of their players that are that were in the Africa qualifiers, and it just becomes a little messy. It killed momentum, I think, going from decision day to the playoffs. It gave the Revs too long of a layoff, and then you have the issues with the COVID stuff. So I think there is, there's nothing to be super upset with here, in my opinion. I saw people jumping the gun last night and saying that Garber took the oil money from NYCFC to get them into a final. And no, he would do that every year if that was the thing, right? I mean, it's just stupid. Especially, and I learned this too, it's always Philadelphia fans. I'm sorry, I'm a Philadelphia Union fan, but I'm not a Philly fan for any other sports. But it's always seems to be the one Philly fans that think that they're getting screwed, or that the league is against them. They're not. They probably loved having it here instead of a stupid baseball stadium. And having the Suns have been there and knowing that they were going to have this thing. But I think the biggest heartbreak about it is never knowing how the game could have went with those 11 healthy players. I think he makes subs earlier. The fact that Aronson doesn't see the pitch until 5 minutes before the end of the game sucks. I think we would have seen subs earlier. I think he was worried that if he makes the subs too soon and they go extra time, then he's burning more legs. So he's just trying to get to, extra time. I think if you have more people on your bench and your main starters there, you're like, okay, I can bring in some new feet and not lose as much quality as I'm going to lose. When you have to sign 3 youth squad players the day before the game to make sure you have enough players to play, that kind of puts you in a position of, I don't really want to put them out on the field because I'm a little worried about how they're going to do their first pro game, playoff Eastern Conference final. And I do want to just say, for Aurelian Collin, who hadn't played anything but like 2 minutes of game time in the last 2 years, he was phenomenal. He really laid it out there. He played all 90 minutes. He was fantastic. He was great. He was exactly a professional, exactly what I expected him to be. And it's unfortunate it ends here for the Union, but NYCFC get their first trophy.
Yeah, and I mean, credit to the Union too. They played, honestly, for 60 to 70 minutes. I thought they were the better team. They kept NYCFC a team that should have, with the roster changes and the lineup changes that the Union had to make, and not playing without probably one of the best keepers that we've had in MLS, and Andre Blake. Not having that fortress back there and that wall, like you said, playing with a guy that hadn't played in over a couple of minutes in the last 2 years, and having to rely on Colin to step in and play in those important roles, and then also relying on some of the kids that had to play. So again, I think it's a credit to one. It's a testament to how good Jim Curtin really is as a coach. If you're still sitting there currently deciding whether Jim Curtin is of the quality that he should be for Europe, I think you can stop questioning that. I think eventually that is his move, and I think that is a dream of his to eventually pursue those ambitious goals that he has. And I think that he has every right to do so. And this shows that this is that game that I think, when you look back on it as a Union fan, and I'm Jordan, you're a Union fan, and seeing what Todd was putting out there, and a lot of Union fans, is that they were proud of the effort. You can't blame MLS. And we're in unprecedented times. Everybody's struggling with this pandemic. Everybody's trying to cope with it. I do agree with you, Jordan. I think they've got to come up with, we are a year out from World Cup. You have got to figure something out, because something happens in World Cup where it breaks out. Then you're going to have the same situation. Could you imagine if this was on a World Cup stage, Jordan, or like if this was Champions League final and you're having, some of these bigger leagues or bigger monies being thrown in? I mean, the world would explode if this was World Cup. If you got up to that stage and you were in the semifinals, and Portugal goes down, or if they ever make it, or Belgium or somebody goes down because 11 other players can't make the game, and you got to understand that TV, you can't just move games because the TV rights, ESPN would never have allowed it.
That's what I wanted to talk about too. Even if it's the everybody be like, everybody was like, if it's the Super Bowl and Tom Brady got COVID, they wouldn't postpone. No. They already had all the hotels booked. They already have all this stuff booked they already have the TV. They already have the ad time sold. There's no way, even if it's the Super Bowl, that this gets postponed, because there's too much money involved as it is. There's TV contracts, there's ad money, there's all this stuff going on that creates a whole, it could be, we've seen it for regular season games get postponed for like NFL before, but the thing about NFL, if a regular season game gets postponed, they have like another 3 at 1 p.m. anyway, right? So you're watching something anyway. This was the only Eastern Conference. And then where do you play? Do you hope that the next day they're all better? Do you hope they don't test positive on Monday? You play it Monday? You can't move MLS Cup final. You could potentially move this game, the Eastern Conference final, to Monday or Tuesday, and then still have the final on Saturday. But if you're talking about postponing in a week, then that moves MLS Cup final a week, and then it moves the expansion draft a week, and it moves the regular draft a week, because then everything is going to start getting moved back. And you can't do that. It's just, they already laid out their postseason schedule. They've already done this stuff. They had enough players to play the game. It's enough whining about it. There's no way this was ever going to get postponed.
Yeah, I agree. So it'll be interesting. They've got a year to figure it out. And we're hoping, as Omicron comes out, that it is taking that lesser, weaker variant. And we hope that it's starting to kind of come out. But I think, Jordan, you're right. It's going to be something we're dealing with all the time now. So I think that they got to sit down and at least go through the protocols. Like, if you can provide 3 or 4 tests in a row that are negative, then chances are you can play without infecting somebody else. Like, I think there's got to be some kind of protocol, and you would really like to understand. And I think that's what sucks, because it is a personal business. This shouldn't be out there in the open, but it should be the league allowing its players and players allowing the league to know, okay, we were in the film room together for maybe 20 minutes and then, test those two and keep those two away. It would be interesting to see, because when they did contact tracing, what exactly were they tracing? What were they sitting next to each other on the plane? Were they on each other bus? Were they in the training academy? Were they in the same locker room? Like, what was it that not all these guys tested positive. There's no way. Like, that would have been, I can't imagine. Like, I can't imagine that this was an accurate depiction of what was really going on in the outbreak with the Union.
Yeah, I would think the same. I don't think that this is all of them testing positive. I do think it's probably, maybe one or two, and then the rest were nearby or something, All right, let's look ahead to Portland versus NYCFC. This game is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Timber Joey. We're going to have it playing on beautiful Providence Park. Really looking forward to how this game is going to go. But I want to get your predictions. We're going to start looking at some predictions for how this final is going to go. Now, we both said some different. I think you said Union versus RSL. And I think I said RSL versus NYCFC. So we were wrong, and we apologize for that, because it is going to be Portland versus NYCFC, December 11th at 3 p.m. on ABC. So I want to get your thoughts, Logan, on how you see this shaking out and a scoreline.
Yeah, so NYCFC has, I saw them play early on because I had season tickets here to Orlando City, and I saw them play early on, and they were playing extremely well. They weren't getting results, but they were defending really well. I think it was actually during one of their kind of hot streaks. It was earlier on in the season, and I thought that they looked like a really competitive team. And this is back when, they had guys healthy, and I think a lot of people forget Tinnerholm's not healthy. He's not been playing, which was a huge hit. Probably their best player, one of their best players, arguably. They've won the last two games basically without Tati Castellanos in the mix. Losing him to that red card and then having to beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia without Tati, even though circumstances were a little bit different. Tavon Grace played really well. Jesus Medina has played well this season. Maxi Morales at times has looked really good. And I do think that eventually they can get more out of that position, whether they move forward or try to get more out of him in that role. And then, Sands has played extremely well. As Sean Johnson is a solid back there in between the post. Portland, having missed Eric Williamson all season, pretty much, again, without Diego Valeri involved at all. But then you have Yemi Chara, you have Diego Chara playing. And when you have guys like that, it's really hard to beat them. If Sebastian Blanco is healthy, any form of Sebastian Blanco, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever he plays, maybe gets in the full 90. It's going to be a good game. And I think it'll be a really tightly contested. I think it's going to be kind of like this New England game that we just saw. I'm hoping for something like this because I do hope it's entertaining and interesting. I do think it's going to be that way just because I think NYCFC can control the midfield pretty well, and they do like to possess the ball. Portland is going to try to smack you in the mouth and get out on the counter and kind of get in those wide spaces and create. They rely heavily on their midfield to get out in those spaces. So I think that it'll be an interesting mix of two teams, both good coaches in Gio Savarese, and then you've got Ronnie Dyla, who has been a phenomenal coach this season. I think was overlooked because of all the good coaches that we've had this season. Jordan, I think after all that long-winded stuff, it's tough, but I don't see NYCFC going into Providence Park and beating the Timbers. I just don't see that it's going to happen. I think that when you look at a team that has been competitive all season, I think Portland has been phenomenal in what they've done. again, finishing in those in the spot that they did and being able to kind of pull themselves up out of it and compete in the playoffs and get to this final spot in the playoffs against an NYCF team that maybe has been seen as overachieving, and many thought that they were dead in the water. I think you and I had thought that when we were talking. It was back when we were looking at Atlanta and talking about the fact that NYCFC was charging forward and trying to get back into that playoff hunt and ended up getting into one of the top 4 spots in the East. It really did kind of show just how good I think that this NYCFC team is. But that being said, I'm not sure that NYCFC has enough to win at Providence Park, and how hard it is to win in the Cascadia, in the weather that they're playing in, and I guess the circumstances that they're going to be playing in. I think that Portland's easily got the better opportunity to win this game. And I just don't think that NYCFC are going to have much of a chance. So I'm going to say, with that long-winded thing, I'm going to say Portland. I'm going to say Portland win this 2-1. And I'm going to go as far as saying that it's a last 10-minute goal for Portland to seal the deal and bring home Portland an MLS Cup that they're dying to get. So, yeah, I'm going to go MLS Cup winners, Portland Timbers, since we picked them for the Supporter Shield. And
so, your cat is like rubbing all over you. I have Timbers winning 3-2. I have a very intense, fun game for a final here. I think maybe it'll be like a 3-1, seems to be comfortable type of win, and then NYCFC scores kind of late, and then it's like, uh-oh, will Portland hang on? And then they will. And they'll win their second ever MLS Cup, their second trophy in 2 years with the MLS's back, and send Valeri out on a high note. So that is what I think is happen, and what I hope to happen. But yeah, I guess that's about it, right? I mean, I don't think we have anything else to really
I think that's it.
Talk about here. So if you want to give us a follow, you can reach us on Stateside on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, and email us statesideshow@gmail.com. I got to tell you a funny story after this. But that about wraps us up. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you after MLS's Cup. We'll talk to you after MLS Cup. Next week, we'll break down what happened, why Portland won, why NYCFC lost, and then we'll go into previewing expansion draft type stuff and all that fun stuff. So thank you for watching and enjoy MLS Cup Final.
Jordan, I really hope that Timber Jim doesn't cut me down because I'm a stump.
It's Timber Joey.